Sandra Oh as Debbie Grayson, and I mean, who, let's be honest, is the realest one in the show. She's surrounded by and supporting a superpowered family with a little bit of chosen family thrown in there, while regularly dealing with the Pentagon, like knocking on her door, sometimes just helping themselves to a little teleportation into the living room.
Hi, I'm Isaiah.
And I'm Mike.
And we're
the Booze Next Door. Talking about that spooky stuff. The Booze Next Door is a media literacy show from a horror lens where we explore real-life, historical, societal, and animated influences behind our cinematic fears.
Got there. We did it. We did it, y'all. It's all good.
Today, of course, we're talking about Invincible.
And joining with us, because we can't actually talk about all of this alone. There's a lot to digest in it. We have a special guest.
Yes, June. Welcome back for yet another episode. How many episodes does that make this for you?
Oh, I think this makes 4.
Wow, I think they're on here more than us.
Yeah, probably.
Oh my god.
I mean, you know, I feel like I have to tally it. You know, there are 2 Until Dawns. There's a Demon Slayer, and now this one. Forgive me, Gabe and Kat, if I've forgotten one. It's I still appreciate all the moments.
Very special guest indeed. Oh, I can't wait to dive into this with you.
Yeah, let's get into it. This came up after the recording of the last session, and I couldn't fully release all the geekery about it, so. Looking forward to doing that right here, right now.
No problem. We definitely got you on that.
Quick synopsis about the show. It is an adult animated series based on the Image comic about a teenager whose father is the most powerful superhero on the planet and what that means for him and the society.
So starting off with Invincible, I think you actually had something that you wanted to start with, Mike. Is that right?
Oh, I mean, we could just start about like the basic premise of the show, and then some of the things that it does differently from like the classic superhero comics that are comics and shows and other media that we've seen. Because Image was very much making this comic, and Robert Kirkman, the author, made this comic kind of as a response to the modern comic book landscape. So for me, I've read the comic of this, and then of course got into the show. It's one of the things it does is it sort of takes this, like, what happens if there's all of these cataclysmic events happening over and over and over, and like, what does that mean for the people who are actually going through them? The people who live in the cities, the people who are fighting the crime, and like all the death and destruction that sort of comes with it. Yeah. So the Invincible comic was, I don't want to say a mirror to the comic books coming out at the time, but it was definitely like a response to them. One of the things that was interesting is that because it's a comic book, doing like crossovers is a lot easier. So briefly in the show, when he's going to like different dimensions, he actually goes to the Marvel universe and like meets Spider-Man and Iron Man and that stuff. And like that, like Image and I think Marvel at the time were closer. Okay. So like it alludes to him meeting Batman, but it doesn't actually show it really in the comic, at least not that I remember. So like He actually goes to like all of the universes, where in the show they have to be like legally distinct Insect Man.
Yes. Yeah. And there's some Batman equivalent in there. I can't remember his name at this point.
Yeah. Darkwing.
Yes.
Yeah. In the
not to be confused with Darkwing Duck.
Yeah.
Right.
Darkwing Duck. Let's get dangerous. Yeah. So then, actually, I do have a question about the context. So then, with when the comic came out, because I feel like there's always a sort of response, whether from the big heads of DC or Marvel, with similar heroes and worlds that are maybe mirrors of one another, with Invincible, I guess, being this other party being a grittier reflection. Because I don't know the timeline. So did this come out before like the Injustice sort of timeline?
Yes, I think this came out before that. And this was, I mean, it's not the first time that there's been an evil Superman story. That's been, I mean, I don't recall the first time, but like Red Sun Superman came out before this. But like, what if Superman was bad was like a relatively common thing. And Invincible was doing like the, you know, the teenage hero angle on top of that. And then Kirkman is just, you know, he's good at sort of crafting soap operas kind of. And like, that's sort of the framework that, or like what he brings to the comic book. Especially with his other work, Walking Dead, which of course is you know, massive success.
Yeah.
And for that, I mean, that's like one of the more interesting parts of it for me, at least, was how it takes this evil Superman story and like for Superman, the main character's dad, Nolan Grayson, is his, I guess, human name.
Yes.
His like character growth was one of the things that was most interesting to me, because he comes into this, he's like 2,000 years old or whatever. Like he's very, 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 very old. Spent his entire time being this, you know, violent conqueror. We see it a little bit when Mark meets him on that alien planet with the bug people, how he's kind of like reflecting on that. And he's like, I feel bad a little bit for the first time in 2 millennia.
Yes. I remember seeing that, but I feel like it's a little bit, so it's a little deeper from like how I interpret it, because he only feels bad after season 1. If we had even caught this, if Mark was still young and he didn't awaken his superpowers, or before he met his wife, like we would have seen just a completely different side. But it really seemed that like love and fatherhood changed Nolan for the better, which is amazing, because I hear that is what fatherhood does. If, you know, when done right, it changes you for the better. And so then in season 3, when we see him, it's kind of like this questioning of legacy that he kind of leaves off in season 1, which I thought is kind of cool, because there's always that weight of legacy. Like the Viltrumites are, you know, this race of people who, spoiler alert here, might be going extinct. Okay. And they need new planets, new homes, and to repopulate their numbers in order to thrive and survive. Going planet to planet, conquering or eliminating any other weaker life form. But he comes to Earth, where it's like there's viable, how would a Viltrumite put it? We'll just say options, viable options in order to
resources,
right? There's viable resources in order to actually make this a new home for the Viltrumites. Yet, in a Viltrumite's eyes, humans are still like considered very lowly creatures, not really that advanced, just kind of like, I mean, you kind of look like us, but like you're dumb and you're not strong. Like I don't know what's going on here.
Very delicate creatures.
Yeah, very delicate creatures, insignificant almost.
We'll talk about all the delicateness of humanity versus Viltrumites.
And it was, again, just having that like weight of legacy. Nolan really focused on the goal, focused on the mission. He was a perfect soldier sort of, you know, type. And it is good to see that growth, because love does amazing things. And from season 1 to 3, because, you know, they're not going to let you just like get the answers right away. Like we do see that, and we get to see that even in his decision making when, again, spoiler alert here. I'm going to say spoiler alert. If you haven't seen any of the seasons, please, you know, pause, maybe watch a couple episodes, come on back, right?
Read a synopsis.
Let's just make a whole blanket like spoiler. This is spoiler zone.
Spoiler. It's spoiler zone. Okay?
I will say,
get caught up.
I'm not going to spoil the comic book, so I won't like tell you what's going to happen. But at very least, the first those 3 seasons. And the bonus episode, spoilers ahead.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've never read the comic, so whatever he says goes. This is fine. But he has a new family, and it feels like that weight of legacy is kind of gone in a way. Because as the Viltrumites would say, delicate creatures, almost even insignificant, which I don't believe, but the Viltrumites believe, insignificant life forms he has married and even bore a child with. And yeah, Mark, to his surprise, has a new younger brother, and his dad seems different, which is honestly for the better. And yeah, and just like the premise of legacy being a thing, with Mark being pretty much the chosen one for Nolan. It's his first, born child. He didn't develop his powers, but he then starts to develop them. And then, like, what does that mean for the legacy of the Viltrumites? And what does that even mean for Mark if Nolan, aka Omni-Man, is able to, be on this planet with his son? It's like, oh, we can just conquer this easily. And well, we find out in a couple universes things do go haywire, which I guess brings up the first major question and thought of, like, well, if superpowers were real, right, and superpowered aliens also existed in the universe, I'm not saying it's not out there, not saying it's not possible, I'm just saying, what ifs right now. I believe the fear factor of just even knowing that exists is quite high. There's a lot of things that can go wrong.
Kind of riffing off of, because y'all have touched on a lot at this point. We've glossed over just all 3 seasons, and I'd like to drill down and kind of riff off some of what y'all were saying. So Mike, you bring specifically the comic book aspect. I'm kind of on the same spectrum of Isaiah, where I am only consuming it in its animated form, and I think it's really worth talking about what makes that translation so impactful. I mean, yes, we have Robert Kirkman bringing his A game, but at the same time, it's starring Stephen Ewan, as Mark Grayson / Invincible. You have J.K. Simmons as Omni-Man. You have Sandra Oh as Debbie Grayson, and I mean, who, let's be honest, is the realest one in the show. She's surrounded by and supporting a superpowered family with a little bit of chosen family thrown in there, while regularly dealing with the Pentagon, like knocking on her door, sometimes just helping themselves to a little teleportation into the living room. Like, you got Seth Rogen in there as Alan the alien. Walton Goggins bringing the Cecil, Jillian Jacobs as Eve. Come on.
Zachary Quinto as Robot.
Zachary Quinto, I mean, Mark Hamill even gets a little, cameo in there as Art Rosenbaum, the superhero tailor. He's just a normal guy, but
the cast here is stacked. It's so impressive.
so stacked, right? And you can just, even without knowing those names, you can just feel it. Like, I didn't know half those names. I was just like, there's something about Eve's voice that's just really doing it for me. Or like this Art Rosenbaum guy, like, I'm buying it. I only see him like once every 8 episodes, but I'm here for it. And I just think that it really, really just makes it so much more authentic, all of their performances. And we're on a horror edutainment podcast. We gotta talk about, what the horrific parts are, right? And a lot of them are in that first season. It's like, while it looks like a Saturday morning cartoon to start, like, the violence has a horrific tone to it. It really earns that TVMA. And it's like, it's just it's body horror disguised in bright colors. And, it's like, instead of fetishizing violence by inflicting it on faceless henchmen or minions, it's like, it's using it to remind you that, what it means to be human, and to give us a bit of what I haven't used in a while, this word called sonder, right? The feeling of, realizing every individual's life is just as important as yours, and you're probably just an NPC or, background character in someone else's life, right? And there are just moments where they really make it hit. And I gotta be honest, they were trying that in the very first, like, 5 to 10 minutes of the first episode. And I didn't know what tone they were trying to set in the moment. I watched those first 5 minutes, turned it off, and didn't come back for months. I was like, I don't understand what the hype around this is. It didn't have the hook for me. I don't know if you all remember that very first episode, but it's just like a couple of security guards just talking about their lives.
I remember that.
And it's the most mundane thing ever. It's like, what is this, right? And then it's like, oh, okay, now some stuff is popping off. Like things are exploding, body parts are like squishing. You know, it's like, okay, I see.
My big criticism of the first season is that first episode. You kind of have to already know what the like you have to have somebody tell you to trust you to like trust me, get through it, because I just think it's not a good as you were saying, it's not a good hook to draw people in, because it's essentially like 20 minutes of superhero nonsense that is like, if you're not really into comic books or the super like MCU and stuff like that, you can bounce off of it. And then it's like 5 minutes of ultra violence. And it's like, what are we doing? It's not until like you see it like a few episodes that it starts to like paint a bigger picture where they're trying to like, you know, put names and faces to these background characters that are normally like not even finished being drawn in the comics.
I mean, hyper violence is right. I feel like that's the best way to like, well, if you made it this far, welcome. Because ooh, boy. I have a name called the Immortal and you just get bodied. I'm sorry. That shit was tragic.
I mean, and you don't, especially if you don't have the background of the comics, you don't understand what is even going on. It's like, why did they pick his head up and like put it in some technological casing? What is even happening? They're reattaching it and he's alive again. We just do this. This is just routine. Cool. Got it. But we gotta talk about the really most gruesome part. That what's the hook, right, in season 1, and that is the massacre of the Guardians, right? The massacre of Guardians. Oh, we're gonna get to some of that other stuff, but the massacre of the Guardians was like,
first time,
what just happened? I thought this guy was the analog to Superman. He just killed the equivalent of the Justice League for seemingly no reason, totally unprovoked. What happened? What's going on? He crushed Red Rush's skull while Red Rush, you know, the equivalent of Flash, was like punching on him, right? Like punching all the fabric off his body, but it wasn't enough. He just squished his whole head in. Darkwing, the Batman equivalent, we know he's Batman, so he doesn't have anything but his wits and his gadgets and his martial arts. He totally just grabbed his whole leg. He had to get a good grip, I guess, so he could do what came next, and he just crushed that leg while he was holding it.
He didn't need to get a good grip. That shit was excellent. He a regular dude.
Slammed his whole half top just turned that whole half top into a grease spot on the floor. You know, like Green Ghost, I think maybe is an analog to Martian Manhunter. Yeah. I mean, just full on hand thrust, like just it goes into the body, splits it open, and it's like, what in the world? I mean, and we just mentioned Immortal. Immortal gets to survive because that head of his is still intact, because he just like gut punched, you know, just totally disemboweled him with a fist, you know, and it's like his suit is covered in blood, right? We're like, what? And that's like the biggest evidence of what happened, because everyone's confused. They're like, who could have come through here and just plowed through the Earth's mightiest heroes, right? Like, and he just puts, and now this is what I thought was silly. He just takes it off and he puts it in a trash bag and puts it up like in the kitchen, like on top of the counter, like. What was the plan there? You clearly weren't going to take it to Art, to your tailor. You weren't going to take it to him to fix. Like, you didn't say anything to your wife. Like, you are Omni-Man. You could have like thrown that thing into space. You could have buried it in Earth's core, like whatever, you know. Like, but he just left it up there, and obviously it gets, you know, discovered. And he has a bloody suit, and what does his wife do take it to be analyzed, right? Like
got some damn sense. Somebody still got some sense.
You know, again, Debbie, the real one, like
the one that holds it down.
And like, you know, we got this Nolan Omni-Man, you know, guy voiced by J.K. Simmons, just like expecting to be trusted with his mustache, you know, it's like Tom Selleck mustache. You know? like, don't go up there. Like, don't try to check around for things. And like, he obviously discovers his little trash bag has been disturbed, and he's like, you know, it's like, well, what are you going to do about that? Like, you know, it's your wife, right? But we do come to find out our guy has some like complex issues. You know, going back to what Isaiah was saying before, he gets around to the point, you know, and we'll talk about everything surrounding this, I'm sure, but like where his wife to him is compared to being a pet
dog. Yeah. I was like,
you know, and it's like, whoa, that kind of hits deep, you know. You're not just saying this, you're not just like, you know, speaking into the air and, you know, monologuing to yourself. You're saying this to your son, that his mother, your wife, is like a pet to you, you know, and it's such a heart-wrenching moment because you've already spent time with them as a family.
For 18 years.
Right. And we only got like a few episodes of that. You know, and it's like, you can only imagine how devastating that is. But
soul crushing,
you know, absolutely soul crushing. So like, again, that's just, you know, getting in a little bit into the massacre. If y'all got any key horror, I got a couple more key horror moments I want to bring up.
I just feel like the biggest horror. Well, all right. So two things. One thing I want to address in Invincible is that like, I feel like one of the key motifs is that like his name is Invincible. He should be invincible. Yet this man gets his shit rocked all the time. It really isn't until the end of season 2 where it's like, oh, okay, he just might actually be invincible.
Yeah, he's like, actually, I can work out.
Yes,
and get stronger. He's like, I can do a few bench presses and improve my physique. You know, it's like good because I don't see he is so far. He's leagues behind what you see in capabilities from his father. It's so unclear how he will ever get there, including other Viltrumites who are like, essentially for story purposes to you are nobodies. You're like, we don't know these people. We have very little reason at this point in time to know these people, but they are still devastating. Mark, is it your human side? Is it holding you back? Because you might have to switch names, buddy.
Just drop the first 2 letters.
Invincible.
Like, and this being like represented like episode after episode, right? Like the opening shows up, it's like Invincible, and it gets more and more blood splatter. You know, it's like more blood splatter. It's like
alluding to the violence is about to come.
It's just more and more violence.
The point where he has to work out is like, that's one of the things that I find it so cool about the series is that like it takes like a slightly real world approach to like look at this of like how like would these powers actually manifest. Like you're not just maximum strength all the time. You got to put in work. Even if you're super strong, you still got to like hit the gym. It's just a different kind of gym.
Gotta hit that super gym, you know, and it sucks to say that he's on such a different level than all of his, you know, partners that they have to create a gym that essentially is just for him, right? Like the Pentagon is putting so much of their resources into making sure Mark can like amplify his heart rate, you know, and he's
even able to like just increase his lung capacity. Like he needs something to just keep him going nonstop. He's like, well, I can literally do this all day. No Captain America, pun intended. He can bench press a planet. Like it's just like how do I even simulate this shit for you, bro? Like,
which does come in clutch, right? Like y'all mentioned, Angstrom.
Yep.
Was it? Yep. You know, like, okay, so we have this character who's just like a walking multiverse. It's just like popping up portals left and right. And when he has that whole ploy to bring a bunch of other very not nice Mark Graysons, we find out that, our Mark that we've been following all this time is actually stronger than some of them, just outright, just flat out stronger. It just has more muscle density. It's because these Marks just, were privileged. They were just like,
they didn't have to play their dad or work out.
Yeah, they were just like, I woke up like this, and they just like didn't do anything. And they got destroyed even by like other heroes or by some of the experiments that were happening at the Pentagon. They just did not all survive. And so I think that was like a good juxtaposition of like, oh, Mark has made some progress from season 1, Mark. Thank goodness, because season 1 finale.
I was just going to say, because at the end of season 1, he needed to hit the gym.
Like we experienced something that I think we all inherently know, but was just illustrated for us in a way that just, I think, was like mind blowing. And The Boys, it has played around with this in the live action sense on Amazon, right? But like seeing it in animated fashion, you can just do so much more. And that's what they decided to do, was show what would happen if we weren't just sparring, if our, Omni-Man, Superman analog father just decided to like try to teach us a lesson by showing us what he is really made of. Like, here is a knuckle cracking punch to your dome. The reality, like, the reality was that Mark's body went hundreds of miles and destroyed 2 buildings and 3 city blocks. And I'm going to put the building aside because we don't know how many people were in the buildings. But along the streets alone, dozens injured and killed simply because Mark got yeeted by Papa, and his body is like titanium in a world made of cardboard. And so he had to deal with the repercussions of simply not being strong enough in his like getting dealt, just like costing so many lives. And it's like, that's a tall order. It's like, you need to get stronger, because when you get hit, this happens. Like, this is unacceptable.
Not even just because he got hit, because like in that, the reason it comes to head is, well, he's like, well, are you going to join me in this birthright, in this legacy of the Viltrumites, or are you going to try and be silly and save these human beings? And when he's holding them, like before the train incident actually happens, the Omni-Man is just saying to his own son, is like, okay, let's see if you can actually save them. And he's just gripping him by the face, just like, go ahead, save them.
I didn't even get around to the train scene yet. I was still talking about everything. I was talking about the foreplay, but
we have the main deal now, because like, in order to get to Mark bench pressing a planet in season 2, we have to acknowledge the fact that he couldn't really save anyone in season 1, not on a grand scale, without help, I should say. He couldn't really save anyone without help. And Omni-Man was just proving the point, is like, if I want to, I can. I just love you too much. So that's why. But it's like, okay, then save them. And then as he's demonstrating and giving that lesson, it's just casualties on casualties on casualties. And then like, the news is capturing all of this, and Name is being, dragged through the muck. And
the most gruesome illustration of a titanium body in a world of cardboard is that train scene. I mean,
it displayed helplessness very well.
Yeah, it's just like what you described. I mean, Mark's face is splitting the train right down the middle as the train and everyone on it just splits open. Anything that's coming into contact with him at high velocity is just splitting open. And that is horror. You know, that moment was definitely not played for laughs. And it's so iconic, it's so memorable, so brutal that Mortal Kombat, Mortal Kombat 12, you know, now called Mortal Kombat 1 because the timeline reset, uses that as Omni-Man's fatality. He is a special character in Mortal Kombat 1. And it's wild. It's wild. I did it just to see what it would look like. But you know, I was like, I can't just do this to anyone because I feel like it won't be totally satisfying. I was like, what character can I do this to that will really make it feel right? And you know who else was a special guest character on there? Homelander.
Oh, perfect. Oh, nice. Okay.
Just that scene alone is honestly what really makes season 1. Like, I think there's a whole lot of cool. Well, I'm gonna get to this other character later. There's a lot of good characters. There's a lot of good development for them. Scenery setting, but it's literally the thing that makes us want more. That, and I would say getting Battle Beast a little early, which is just another blood crazed. He really is just Kenpachi. Anyone that watches Bleach, he's just a motherfucker that likes to fight. He just wants to smoke 24/7.
Ever since like Battle Beast showed up and showed out, I was like, we gotta keep a lookout for this guy. Like, there's something to this. I mean, he showed up, he like split, like just peeled Monster Girl's like skin off her face, like left her in critical condition. Just, you know, left her skull showing. With Black Samson, I mean, he beat Black Samson up, and then Invincible, that was actually the worst, the first and worst at the time. Like defeat he had suffered, just like split his chest open with the battle axe or a metal club, just like right down the middle, and then tasted the blood that flew into the air, you know, and just left him in a coma. It's like,
hey, wherever he came from, send that motherfucker back. Hey, we don't want no more.
I'm like, this guy is from what planet Apocalypse? You know what I mean? Somebody. I was like, somebody need to take out the mother box because it's send this dude back because I'm getting like dark side vibes right now.
Well, he's got a good analog to Lobo, where he's just like flying around trying to beat strong people.
Well,
that's real.
Yeah,
that's a one-man wrecking crew.
No. And when he shows up, I mean, again, it makes sense. You know, the things that transpire thereafter. Like, oh yeah, we're gonna duke it out with Viltrumites until we are floating out in space and my body freezes over. Like, that is the only satisfying battle I can have in life. And, you know, I'm glad to have seen that, you know, because I really wanted to see him be pushed to his limits a little bit more, because what he did to Mark and all the others, I was like, this is so unfair. I thought Omni-Man was the biggest issue we would have to deal with, but this guy is showing there are non-Viltrumite folk out here who are just like on level 10 and everybody else is still trying to get XP, you know.
Like, only that would have been a problem got taken care of, but we can circle back to that in a little bit. But I want to insert a less horrific moment real quick that brings the show to life, right? That soundtrack. Oh, that soundtrack. I mean, it's like every time I think about it. So I came across Feel It by David just like
out in the wild, no reference to the show for me whatsoever. I was just like bopping to it, just like, you know. And then you got Run the Jewels.
True.
You got I think Alice Phoebe Lou, which I think that comes up in the special with Eve.
Mm-hmm.
It's just so good. So anyway, just wanted to plug that really quick.
The soundtrack to it is also like amazing.
Mm-hmm.
And then I kind of want to touch back on some of like the. I guess I also want to ask like real life scenarios, right? Let's take it to. We have now we know there's superheroes, supervillains, superpowered beings every which way. Like, what would, first and foremost, the scary aspect of it is like, well, are these, I guess, regulated superpowered beings? Are they unregulated superpowered beings? Being that, like, should there be some sort of registry? And like when it comes to forming a superhero coalition or some band of ne'er-do-wells, right? Because there's a whole mix of them. Who do you even trust anymore if the person's name is isn't invincible, right? Like, the level of fear that brings.
You know, you're speaking to something that I think I struggled the most with. Like, once you get past the gore and violence, that is something I struggled the most with the story is the strained relationship between Cecil, who is a high-ranking official at the Pentagon, and our 17-year-old, 18-year-old Mark Grayson, Invincible guy, like, where we're trying to find the answer to that question, right? And like the trust is just so thin, and it just keeps getting repeatedly snapped by things that, really are just like some lapses in communication, or, with some contingencies, right? Like, Cecil is kind of also like a Batman analog to me. He's like Batman without all the other things. Like, he has the planning mind of Batman. And what does Batman do? Batman comes up with contingencies for everyone.
Yeah.
That's like villains and comrades included. And
kind of like Batman and Batman Beyond. Like, he's older, but he still has the brain power. Yeah.
And his dedication to the mission.
Exactly. And Mark, who's like so young and still has like naturally some of that angst in him, just can't understand that. He can't understand why he wouldn't be trusted, and it makes him repeatedly so angry, and like just really kind of tilts him in a direction he clearly doesn't want to be in. It makes him like very sad, especially after the betrayal of his father, to the entire planet. Like, he doesn't want to be anywhere near that. But every time he gets so angry, especially with Cecil, he tips over there, and he does it without realizing. And it's like, shoot, dude, like, I understand your position, but you really need to take some breaths. Just like, see it from Cecil's point of view, and we really don't have to fight.
No, that's true. It's like, because Mark is part Viltrumite, it kind of undermines to Cecil, right? And to anyone who has Cecil's same mind frame, that's like, no, at any given moment, you could just say, fuck it, just like Nolan did, right? So we are going to have these measures to stop you, whether you like it or not, or even know about it, because they can just boldface lie, that we as human beings need to, like, have some sort of protection. However, it's like the breaking of trust, and the failure of communication that comes with it, while Mark is still trying to balance all of that, because you grow and understand to know that, like, Mark still loves his dad. It's incredibly complex. It's very, very tough to navigate. It's trauma after trauma. And he's, doing his best to, one, become a good big brother, still become like a good college student and find his way in life, because each season he gets a little bit older, and when we start, he's just a young teen, and now he has to like try and become a good young adult who literally has the weight of more than just the world, the galaxy on his shoulders from any impending, doom, and yet still trying to be a son and a good boyfriend and keep his grades up and just have a normal life if he can.
Yeah, I mean, it gets into like what like the weight of it on him is like when at the end of season 1, when his dad is beating him up and is like, after 500 years, what would you have? And he's like, I'd still have you, Dad. Like, I still you. And that's
I mean,
that line.
It's such a heartbreaking moment, right? Because I mean, he is beat.
Yeah.
He is beat. Like, I mean, his father has punched teeth out of him, like broken so many blood vessels at this point. Like he can't even see, and he still manages to utter that sentence.
Yeah. And honestly,
oh my gosh,
that probably alone was maybe not alone, but that was the straw to break the camel's back for Nolan. Like that was like, I really need to reflect on everything I've done. And I can't underestimate the power of love, man. That shit immaculate.
Yeah. I would love to hear from you, Mike, as a big like Superman fan, what you make of this struggle that Mark specifically faces throughout the first couple of seasons to trying to essentially avoid killing.
Yeah. I mean, it's like Superman is interesting because like his origin is like very kind of basic from storytelling standpoint. Like he just goes and he like punches the bad person and then saves the day. Very clear cut, very black and white. But Invincible is very much like this, there's only shades of gray. Nobody is existing on either side of the spectrum. Like we were talking about Cecil earlier. He's like trying to defend the planet. And so he's looking at the lives of, 7 billion people. And it's like, well, of course I'm going to screw over one person. I'm trying to save 7 billion. And it's like, he's constantly making choices like that. And then for Mark, it's like, same thing. He's like, killing is wrong. But, sometimes like this person only wants to like harm. And, it's like specifically harming me, like talking about Angstrom Levy. Angstrom wouldn't let it go. He like just kept getting more and more twisted, more like his, personality was more and more fracturing because of the accident that, to be fair, like Invincible was there and he did contribute to the accident happening. But I don't think it was his fault. It was just sort of a very unfortunate situation.
It was.
Yeah.
But like, yeah, I mean, it's that's one of the things that's like so gripping and so interesting about the show is that like, even like our protagonist is still like, he's like, I shouldn't killing is wrong. But at the same time, it's like,
is it? This person down. Yeah.
Yeah. Especially when it comes to like, towards the end, he's like, if I had actually killed Angstrom, it would have prevented all of this bad stuff from happening. And he's like, well, actually, maybe, sometimes you do actually have to do that in like certain situations. And it's like an interesting conversation with like the superhero genre. Like, what's the consequence of being a hero, right? Like you save the world, but you destroyed 3 cities. Like that's thousands of people potentially. And like, not everybody is going to see it the same way. It's like, okay, well, you saved the people over there, but you couldn't save the people over here. And like, how do you live with making that choice of like who you can and who you can't save? And it's like a really good dissection of like the superhero genre and like taking it apart and like analyzing what it means.
Yeah, and it really does. I'm glad you mentioned that about the property damage, right? Because that's something that traditionally is hidden from view. That's carnage that's hidden from view. We would watch these big fights with Superman and, buildings are collapsing and, maybe he saves a puppy from a building collapsing. But we're not talking about all the people that were in that building, right? And there is a moment where the story takes a magnifying glass to that, like, somewhat seemingly insignificant moment where we were like, a lot of people died when Mark got yeeted by his dad and he went through those 2 buildings. But we put a magnifying glass later on that very moment, and we show a particular character that was in that building with his family and, you know, what happened as a result, despite Mark actually trying to stop that one of those buildings from falling over. Yeah. And it just wasn't enough, right? And now he has to deal with an enemy that saw him and his father both as menaces that caused that. Yeah. Right. It's tricky. I will say I struggled with the essentially equivalent of a 10-year-old brother. Yeah. His brother, accelerates in age, right? Like he was an infant one moment, the next a toddler, the next, like, he's almost a tween. But like his brother being the one to tell him, you need to kill that guy. Yeah. You need to kill that guy. Look what he almost did to me. Look what he for sure did to Mom, right? Because there is that one very gruesome moment where he unfortunately he just grabbed her by the arm and gave her a compound fracture, like her bone immediately pierced through the skin, right? Mark is like real big on that. He threatens quite a few people, including Cecil, when it comes to family. Yeah. And, he does threaten with that kind of violence, and his brother uses that as leverage. He was like, you said this. Yeah. And he did try to backtrack. He was like, I just said that to scare him. Like we shouldn't actually do that. But his brother kind of convinced, like his younger brother kind of convinces him that no, this is necessary. Yeah. And that's scary because we're already on the Viltrumite train, right? And we're trying to avoid, being dead.
and that's kind of the paradox that like the little brother brings up, is because like he's still really young and like he may have heard stories of dad, but like when you're young and like you're viewing a parent, and in this case, one who was literally a superhero, like you normally would view a parent, that, raises you well as a superhero. So like, it's all sunshine for him. No matter what dad did, it was almost infallible. So then Mark, even like when he questions it, is like, yeah, but dad had a good reason though, right? Like he doesn't look at it in a negative way. So even when Mark's trying to teach him, he was like, okay, he kind of like half gets it. Like he understands that, all right, there's some instances in which you shouldn't, but whenever I go against a bad guy or someone I deem a bad guy, I can, right? And then that's what brings up to like, well, no, you shouldn't. But then there was also this instance against my family that maybe I should have, because with Angstrom, he only thought he killed them because he, at one point, thought he could take it. But it's like, no, dude, Angstrom's just a teleporter, dude. Like, he can't
with a big head,
with a big ass head. Yeah, bro.
The name of the episode is I Thought He Was Stronger.
Yeah, I thought he was stronger.
Which is fair, because he did claim he had enhancements, and he did, which is how he managed to like break Mark's mom, Debbie Grayson's arm, right? Exactly. Just by grabbing her. So yeah, of course you would think a guy like that could take a few lickings, but
then here comes the bigger issue is like I always think back to Justice League Unlimited last episode, Superman talking the dark side, really walking him down, finally able to talk his shit. It's like, oh, you know what? It is so hard for me to cut loose. I can never do so in this paper-thin world, but you can take it, right? And
cracking the knuckles while he's walking up.
And Mark has always... He's been angry, right? So he's angry in season 3 and he wants to unleash that. Now the issue comes, what happens when you do run into someone that can take it, but you aren't strong enough to finish the job? Enter Conquest, the Viltrumite of Viltrumites, the one person they send like, hey, it's in the name. So you know what's going to happen. It's like, he's too good at his job. I was like, no one, he's the mad dog of war for the Viltrumites. They send him, they know the mission's getting completed. Come back with
this. Yeah. This guy was so disturbingly violent and brutal and effective at what he did that I was thrown by the moment when he gave a heartfelt confession. Like he was so sure he was annihilating Mark that he with almost maybe a tear, a single tear, like expressed how lonely he was in life, how his power among other Viltrumites was so great that they feared him and that it made him sad. Like the fact that a Viltrumite gave a moment of vulnerability like that because he was totally hell-bent on sending Mark to the other world. I had never seen anything like that before. Like this guy, he clearly, like therapy could help you, but your society just will not allow for it.
He psychotic, pure psychosis, and just depression. I'm like, how are you gonna cry and whoop my ass at the same time? Like, you can't really. No.
like are you're gonna drop a single tear on me as you choke me out? That's cool.
This is crazy work. Oh my god.
Yeah, but we can't talk about that fight without really talking about one of the other most standout characters in the story who gets a special dedicated to her, and that's Eve. Yeah, we have someone who is reworking reality like on an atomic level, and that's the only reason Mark is still alive and post-conquest.
And that's who I was actually gonna spin back to, is because Spider-Man quote, obviously with great power comes great responsibility. Eve is so powerful, she can never be at 100% unless the restrictions are released, because Eve is Atom Eve. She literally changes atoms, like anything at a subatomic level. And to have your ability kind of nerfed on a daily basis, that like you're not allowed to change the molecules of any living organism, because we know you can, and we know you can do whatever you want with that. It's like, oh, so when she cuts loose, she will whatever she wants. She will just call her the creator. Like she's gonna do whatever the fuck she wants.
Yeah, don't put her into a traumatic position, because apparently that's what lifts the guardrails, and then she just rework you into jelly.
She hit that near-death experience and came back with a Super Saiyan Zenkai boost. That's
but I will say the issue there is it seems she does lose consciousness immediately after. Like she can't maintain any sort of avatar state.
Well, I mean, for a power that great, I kind of figure, because she hasn't even used it for quite some time. So it was probably really
like twice in her life.
Probably incredibly exhausting. Man, with Invincible and all of these characters, all of these like plot lines and stories, I do want to say that, because I know we're running out of time, I do want to say that it is a beautiful story on how it progresses from season 1 to season 3, and even that little special movie of Adam Eve. That getting to see Mark go through all these things, and hopefully in season 4 maybe come on the other side of things with some better solutions and just more maturity. I'll stick by this. Love is a superpower in and of itself. It is pretty much what stopped some of the tyranny at the end of season 1. It is what kind of helps keep Mark focused in season 2. And it is what saves him in season 3. And even helps some characters kind of go under a healing process, a rehabilitation of sorts. Even when it's from old lovers to new lovers. And just what love can contain, because he had Amber and he also had Eve. Season 1 Amber, way different than season 2 and 3. I gotta say that. But digressing on that, it's like Amber, you know, coming around to everything, being able to be someone for him to, you know, hey, you can let your guard down. You can just be Mark when you're with me. When you got to go out there, I understand, you know, more now since being with you got to go be superhero. And I know it's tricky, you know, trying to balance all that. But I find it beautiful because, yeah, it's something that I think everybody kind of needs in order to keep on going. And even in a show as gruesome and dark as Invincible, that love really is just a unstoppable force.
Yeah.
Can change people.
I mean, there's really no other explanation for what can send your father that just beat you into a pulp, like flying out into outer space with tears in his eyes.
Yeah. Especially if he's 2,000 years old and has only known violence.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. It had to be something next level. So, yeah, love is definitely a big one and a big factor in this story.
Of course. I got one more like joke question. How much you think those insurance premiums gonna be in these cities, man? Because this shit, I can't even imagine.
Insurance doesn't exist in this world. There's absolutely no way. Like in our current world now, where we're facing, you know, something as threatening as climate change, insurance companies are already like backing out. It's like, you know, superheroes are like, you know, superheroes and villains. They're like
how
walking, talking, breathing, flying, like, you know, all kinds of like they are crises, you know. So
how you gonna explain to your boss, and you know what, the Immortal got into it, he used my car as a weapon, I can't make it, I don't know what to tell you. Then the car insurance company trying to hit you up talking about, hey bro, you need to pay for this, like I know I signed superhero insurance on this bitch.
It must come from the government with deep pockets. We just have an understanding that everyone in this country is going to be covered because it's necessary.
They have some science fiction technology, so I'm sure they can build cities a little bit faster, maybe.
You know what? There definitely is that. When the Pentagon got annihilated, every other scene they were showing you more and more of the Pentagon being like, I mean, of course it's the Pentagon, but still, like if you could do it like that, also you can rebuild like what the explosion that happened at the Grayson house. Like obviously like you have what it takes. But you know, we talk about horror as a genre, and I mean I think Invincible really proves that horror is like really more of a lens. Right. I mean, you can point it at any story and ask like, what is terrifying here? And I mean, in this case, it's legacy, it's family, it's the crushing realization that, you know, power without morality is monstrous. And I mean, you know, what happens when the person you trust the most, the ultimate protector, becomes the ultimate threat? I mean, you know, at the end of the day, Invincible does what horror does best. You know, it forces us to confront uncomfortable truths. And I mean, I think that the show brilliantly uses superhero tropes as the delivery system for body horror, psychological horror, existential horror. And I mean, it also respects us as this audience to not pull the punches. And, you know, it's kind of wrapped in this sort of superhero spectacle that's reminiscent of like Saturday morning cartoons again, but like that makes it in a way hit even harder. And so definitely recommend it. You know, if you can handle the darker lens, if you can handle the gore, it's absolutely worth experiencing. I mean, if you lean a bit tender, maybe just not right before bedtime.
And season 4 is coming soon, so more show to look forward to.
And then April, maybe?
I think so.
We're almost there.
We're pretty
like
close.
6 months.
All right. I think that about wraps it up. And in Ghouls tradition, and now so in Boo's tradition, We have to say, don't get married.
Delete your children.